right, so we got a brand new headline, y'all. And look, I'm just gonna come off straight out the gate and say, but just be like, hey, yeah, it was all right. It was all right, and we're gonna discuss, why I feel that way. We'll kind of break it down a little bit and just kind of dive into some deeper things here. But this month it definitely isn't the most of exciting months. With that being said, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now, of course, as always, we jump into this in an open mind frame. Of course, anything I say within this video is not to be anything of like a doomer or anything like that. Remember, I am not a doomer in the slightest bit, but I will speak on things constructively, and I have viewpoints on things, and I will explain things, and I think things outside in the full scope of things. So I'm always put myself in other people's shoes, okay? Understand that first about me and the way that I think. First and foremost, understand that. So that way you know before you comment down below. Much love. Anyways, so first and foremost, we have Falz Dalion R2. This, for me personally, not really too excited about this. This really comes down to me not being excited about this because of how they have gone about the Ectasis in the Exilio. So, and this is kind of the basis. This is kind of like the basis of kind of just how I'm kind of feeling in general. I'm kind of like wobbly about things in the first place. So like whenever you kind of see me kind of be like, it's kind of stems around this because me personally, I think it was a bad move on their part to release the Ectasis units and the Exilio units with such a big gap in between the new system that actually makes them relevant. I mean, the Ectasis units are the units, so they're a little bit more relevant. You can upgrade to those and it makes sense. The Exilio units, there's virtually no reason to really be trying to, rush to upgrade to them or anything of the sort because the Winguards are still so tremendously better and Exilios they won't have a lot of reason until the new future comes out. So like there's no reason for them to exist right now. And then of course with Exilio, they're so readily accessible, so extremely and readily accessible. So pretty much there's not a chase, there's no chase. And yeah, and we'll touch on this as we kind of move through things, but that's how I feel about that whole situation there. And so right now there's kind of a lot riding on that new item enhancement feature. Like there's pretty much like all the eggs in one basket type deal. So so like if that doesn't hit, that might be problematic. All right, at least they did it the way that they're doing it. So, but anyways, Falz Dalion, I haven't run it yet as of the making of this video. I'm sure it will be, I'm sure my group, the usual 4 who I run, well, 3, 4 include, you get what I'm saying, 4 people total, 3 including me, that I usually run these top tier quests with. I'm sure we'll clear it in, within 30 minutes or something like that, whenever we start to do it. 30 minutes to an hour, I guess, maybe first try like we did MDFA, who knows. But not super excited about that because there's no incentive in there, no drops. It's just Exilio drops. I can go to Nameless City and get Exilio drops. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to feel the incentive to like grind it or something like that. Sure, I'll do it for the weekly, of course. It's like, and this is the title. I'm not sure what the title has. It's probably nothing too worthwhile. Maybe 10 SG or something like that, 5 SG. But I can always go run Nameless City if I want an Exilio weapon. You feel me? Like I can go there and I can spend an hour in Exilio City and I can, easily make a fix it level 3 from scratch. Or, if I don't want to do that, I can just go to the personal shop and I can buy the materials. The Exilios are cheap because they're readily accessible. So they're cheap. So I can just go to the shop and I can spend less than $1 million and I can upgrade it to level 3 or 4 for less than $1 million. You know what I'm saying? There's just no chase. So it doesn't give me a whole lot of reason to be running DFDR2, like trying to like grind it or like, anything outside of really doing the weekly. So it's like for me, DFDR2 is there, but it's not there. It exists, but it doesn't really exist to me. Kind of. So there's no purpose to it, it feels like for me. And then we do have the Zenith fight LTQ, which introduces a new boss, the Ruin Angelo, however you say his name, which is pretty neat, and it really utilizes kind of using your Mars unit. This is a pretty great addition. I think that this is pretty fun. However, there is an issue that I will address on when we hit the next LTQ that I will kind of talk about, and it applies to this as well. But for right now, we're just going to skim over this and just know that this is here. There's also another version that comes later on in the month where you only fight this guy and it's solo. So you only fight Zenith you only fight Ruin Angeli, and it's just him and it's solo. But this is great because pretty much it's a great way to train with your Mars unit, right? Get some real world combat with your Mars units. It's a great way to, really capitalize on that. As now they mentioned, the Mars release is over a month ago, so now it's giving us time to build up and have it, something to slap things around with the Mars unit. So this was a good call. This was great, and we kind of forget that something like this would come, where it's straightly focused really strongly on Mars units. So, and then of course, in regards to the AC scratch tickets, the AC scratch tickets, not really worry about these because these are always good. If there's one thing PSO knows and does very well, it's usually the scratch tickets, the AC scratch tickets in specific. Usually these are pretty great. There's some great motions in these as well that I very much enjoyed, and that pretty much continues with all of the ticket lineups that they have throughout this whole month. As you can see here, this magic incantation is pretty nice, and they also have different versions where you have like a little blast in there, as you can see there, which is pretty nice. I like these. These are pretty cool ones as you can use for motions and idles and dashes. So I do think that this is a great implementation as well. I think one of the biggest additions though are what they gave for the line strike. I think line strike, this one's actually really good because line strike is very fun. And the thing about line strike is that it's extremely enjoyable when you have people playing it. So there's one issue is that there's not a whole lot of incentive to be playing it. I think that they need to address that more so than anything. But Line Strike is getting some updates here. We are getting, a whole list of things. I really enjoy how they add new skills that trigger new effects. So this is actually really cool. I like this about the Line Strike. This was definitely one of the highlights of the headline. But like I said, the issue there still falls on the fact that there's not a lot of incentive to do Line Strike. I think Line Strike is great. I think Line Strike is very enjoyable, but there is simply not enough incentive to do it. Even if they had like something, play a weekly task that gives you, SG for a certain amount of wins. Because of course, I understand, they didn't add too many elements of it that, but that would force someone who doesn't want to play it to play it. So I understand that. But at the same time, there's just like no incentive to play it. Like there's like none, unless your friend asks you to play it or something. There really is none. So I think there should be at least some sort of element that they put there that gives incentive to play it more frequently, where with not impeding necessarily on normal gameplay, right? For those who don't want to play it, but that needs to happen because I think that Line Strike is very enjoyable, and I like that these updates are being included and happening and creating a more enjoyable experience for Line Strike. But there's that issue of what I'm speaking on here that they need to address to really capitalize on it. And then of course we have the Kaiju number 8 collab. There's not really too much for me to say here. I've personally never seen this anime, Kaiju number 8. I've heard about it before, but I've personally never watched it. However, that's completely beyond the point. These collabs are usually always pretty great. If there's one thing that NGS, the Sega team, does very great, it is always collabs. It is always collabs. So you can always expect collabs to be great. I don't really need to like see all these things, but these collabs are going to be great regardless, as you can see here with the outfits. The camos are always pretty nice. The camos in this one are really nice as well. So, and of course, we have stickers that have like sound effects. These have been really popular with the community, like the I am atomic, one, the I am atomic. Those stickers with the sound effects have been pretty fun as well. So this is definitely something to look forward to. Is this AC Scratch, the Kaiju number 8 style? So I think that this is a really strong point in the headline as well. for those who are looking forward to pulling on these AC Scratch tickets. Speaking of AC Scratch tickets, we also have the Stylish Autumn AC Scratch ticket coming up. These ones are pretty nice. I like these little dresses that they have for little casual dresses. You know, it's like, I'm a real chill dude, a little casual dude. You know what I'm saying? So I like the casual dresses. You know what I'm saying? I don't ask for too much, bro. I ask for too much. But anyways, I do like this lineup. Like I said, all the AC Scratches this month are pretty on point. I like this outfit as well. I think that the AC Scratches this month are pretty good, pretty solid. So if you're looking forward to the fashions in the game, this is definitely a great month. Definitely a great month if you're looking forward to the fashion in the game, because we have loads of it and pretty good across the board for this month in terms of AC tickets and fashion items. So now to rewind a bit, we do have the Ordinal Tower revamp coming up. So this is going to be something that I am fairly interested in. As remember, I am a gameplay first type player. So this is going to be pretty interesting, pretty neat. Of course, however, questioning what the rewards will look like. If there's any augments in here that make it worthwhile, that you can at least sell or something like that, is really depending on that, because obviously we know there's not going to be any new weapons in there, any new units in there, because we know that we're dealing with Dalion and Exorcist for a very long time to come. So that creates the area of, well, what else is going to be in here? So that's kind of where my brain's at with that one. But Ordinal Tower revamp does look fun, does look exciting. And so rank 8 is a 5/4 tower type field with a trial on H4. If you've done Ordinal Tower, then you're familiar with how Ordinal Tower works. So this is just an enhanced, brand new rank of Ordinal Tower, which Ordinal Tower is pretty fun. Well, it was in the past at least. So I will be excited to do this, but once again, it just depends on the drops, y'all. It just depends on them drops. Drop it like it's hot. And like I said, what the Zilio, the Exorcist is kind of just like, we know that there's a very limited field of things that can be dropping in these. So yeah. And then we have this LTQ that's coming up with the X2048. And this is where I'm going to rewind a little bit, because remember I said that there's another LTQ that we're getting, and I would kind of address my thought processes on this. And it's not necessarily, so for this one, of course we've seen something similar to this. It looks like it's a bit different, but of course we've seen something similar. For me, it's not necessarily that this is a bad, LTQ or whatever. It's more so that generally for LTQs, there's not a whole lot of reason to do them outside of seasonal events. You feel me? Because unless there's like really decent or worthwhile drops in them, there's not a whole lot of reason to do LTQs when you don't have like a seasonal shop where you're accumulating points or something like that to work towards, or you're working towards scratch tickets. So you have these LTQs like this, and there's just not a whole lot of reason or incentive. Of course, in the past, there were times where they added like the INEA variants that were in them, right? So that gives a reason to run them, right? Once again, like I said, we know that we're dealing with Exorcist and Exilio weapons for a long time to come. However, they made these weapons and units so readily accessible that what else can you put in, these LTQs or stuff like outside of seasonal events? I think the best type of event they have probably that, we can have access to at this period, is probably like those mutant events. I think the mutant event was probably a pretty successful one. The last one in Convars was pretty successful, I think. But like with these LTQs, it's just, there's not a whole lot of reason to run it outside of seasonal events. And I was really expecting seasonal this month, because on the roadmap, it says that we have like 5 LTQs this month or something like that, or in this period or whatever. And so I was expecting, so it also says that there's 4 LTQs in the next period. So I'm sure we'll have a seasonal. Of course, we're going to have a seasonal for Halloween, obviously. So, well, of course, there'll be a seasonal next month. But I'm on the fence about, these LTQs outside of seasonals. There's not a whole lot of reason to be running them because of the gearing escape and how accessible everything is already. If everything's already accessible, if I can go into Nameless and get, you know, a Zelio like that, if I can go to the personal shop and get an Exorcist for 2,000 Meseta, you know what I'm saying, because they drop everywhere, then putting them in an LTQ definitely isn't going to incentivize me to go run it. So what are you going to put in these? You know, it has to be fairly good augments or fairly good materials, you know, for these augments. Once again, I guess I can rewind back and say that, you know, these LGQs are a great incentive for newer players. I think for veteran players, you know, things like these definitely don't appeal as much because there's not a whole lot of gain or benefit. However, for newer players, I think that things like these definitely do help because it allows you much quicker ways to get those materials that veterans might otherwise have sitting around. You know, that's why they don't really run those. So I think that, you know, I try to look at it from every view, right? I try to look at it not only from my own view, but from the view of a new player, you know, the view of a returning player, all the above. Remember, I'm the type who likes to put myself in everyone's shoe. You know, I'm not someone who only sees through my own lens. And so I do see that as beneficial. I do understand and see that. However, just on the grand scale of things, for more veteran players, outside of a seasonal, it doesn't. I don't see what they could put in here to give a whole lot of incentive to run it. So we'll see. Only time will tell. This is all kind of, you know, the fact of the matter is that we don't know what the drops are going to be. So I can't sit here and speak on it with clear certainty because I don't know what the drops are going to be. So ultimately, it does boil down to, you know, what the final product is. And it's the same thing with like the gearing system, right? That boils down to how that's going to work. So because we don't know for sure. And with that being said, let's address what they said about the new system as well as they adjusted it.
Since the purpose of this update is to encourage people to use their enhanced equipment for a longer period of time, we have designed the equipment to inherit various equipment-based parameters when evolving, such as enhancement level, potential level, preset skills, augments, and multi-weaponization. What's more, while we had introduced this as a new feature to the item lab in the last letter from the dev team, we changed our policy to make it more convenient and are now implementing it as a feature with the item trader.
So that's the one that gets me. What exactly does that mean? So they said that, you know, it's going to be at the item trader now instead of at the item lab. So the item trader is the person where you have the growthman exchanges and all that stuff. That's the item trader. So how exactly is this going to work? How is this system supposed to work? This confused me even more as to how this is going to work, how it's supposed to work. And now I'm just like super confused. Like really, really confused. This brought more questions than anything for me. If you ask me, this has brought more questions than anything. So I'm not entirely too sure about this one. I'm not entirely too sure. But like, does this mean that it's gonna be like super easy? I fear that they're going to make this too easy, or it's not going to be worth the chase or the upgrade. That's kind of what I fear about that. You know, it's because they already made the Exorcist and the Exilio so easy to obtain. There's so much writing on the new item lab or item trader future now. There's so much writing on this new future to the point that they put all their eggs in a basket that if this does not pan out or if this doesn't work, you know, the way that that they want it to work, then they put themselves in a really tough spot. So like because of how they've gone to this spot. So I'm hoping that this all pans out and that this new system is great and is absolutely fabulous. That's what I want. That's 100% what I want. But of course, you know, there's just so many unknowns right now. And let me be clear that is just that. There's so many unknowns. So I can't sit here and say that, oh, well, this might be bad or this might be good or whatever. Because the fact of the matter is that I do not know. And I'm not someone who is going to tell you I know something if I don't know something. That's not how I work. I'm not going to give you or steer you in the wrong direction, intentionally. That's not how I do things. That's not who I am. So, but I can present you with, the cautionaries I may have, the issues or the questions I may have in my head. That's kind of where my questions are at right here. So I don't know. We'll get more information on this, but this in particular was just is very strange to me, considering what you can get from the item trader and how that would entail as to how the system may potentially work. So versus where if it was an item lab future. So I'm confused on this. Maybe it was just worded strangely or what. I don't know. But only time will tell ultimately. So that's what we're looking forward to, because only time will tell. And then, of course, to wrap it up, just letting y'all know that there's a 10 a day free scratch ticket. Y'all probably already seen this. It goes until 100 times. So be sure to log on and get these free scratch tickets. There's a lot of protects in this stuff. There's just a little short segment here just to let y'all know this just out the gate. Maybe I'll probably mention it in another video or something. But for those who made it to this point, letting y'all know that if you haven't realized it already, and remember, it goes to 100. So once it reaches 100, then you won't get the free 10 anymore. But there are lots of goodies in there, protects and stuff like that for preset skills, all that stuff. So, but at any rate, how do y'all feel about the headline? Be sure to let me know down below. I do want to know how you feel about that line. However, like I said, and like I always say, y'all, do not come into the comments talking crazy. I am all for discussion. I am all for talk. But if you're coming into the comments and you're just saying something that's without, then I'm going to treat it as if it's a comment that's without. Okay, you're not going to get a response. Period. That's it. You're just not going to get a response. I'm all for discussion. I'm all for talking. And I want to know how y'all feel about these things. But it's important that you convey how you feel in an appropriate manner. This isn't some Doom poster, page. So there's plenty of Doom posters out there. Like I always say, if you want to do that, go to Reddit. That's where people go who, despise their lives, who want the whole world to burn, who have lots of issues and undealt with trauma. That's what Reddit's for. That's literally what Reddit's for. That's where you go for that. And then if you can't find that on Reddit, just go on X. There's a lot of people on X who do that as well. So there's a lot of unhappy people on X and a lot of unhappy people on Reddit who like to do that. So this is not that place. I like to have conversations, actual conversations. Okay, so just letting y'all know. Anyways, be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Much love. Holla. Spike content.